If you've
This
seen these
conference will now
tubes,
be recorded.
have you seen the CR series SPT tubes?
No, I don't
They've
think so.
got an integrated red dot. It's built into the output coupler, so
Oh, wow.
it will be in line with the actual laser beam as long as
Nice.
it's built right. As long as the output coupler doesn't fail.
Right.
But you're still got a beam combiner in there, so you have an extra optic. So if you put one of those in a regular Thunder, you got to remove your beam combiner, or you're just,
Yeah.
adding, losing laser.
Yep.
Yeah, power going through there. So, and then the other, I mean, it would be cool for alignment. It really would be. But if it does go out, then you have to put your beam combiner in, or if you didn't have one, you have to put one in, and then you've got another dead optic that's still in the way because you've got two beam combiners in the line again.
Yeah.
If the one in the tube failed, say the red dot failed, but the tube is still good,
Right.
you don't want to
Then you're
replace the
back to
tube
putting
just for
an
that.
external one back in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but I was looking at them.
Huh. Well, there isn't any perfect solution because, like you say, it's nice to have it all integrated, especially if that way you don't align your red dot different than you do your beam, which happens,
Right. But then the old schoolers, are like, hey, you don't even use a red dot. You pulse test it with the tape like everybody else. Kind of like trying to go get your Morse code license, get the no code where you don't have to learn the actual Morse code for your ham license.
That's right.
It's kind of like it's kind of the whole process. Learning that lasers, learning how to play it. It's not really learning how to run it. You play it like a violin, so you got to tune the strings and stuff.
There is definitely a process to it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we got some people popping in here. That's good.
Yep.
Oh. Awesome. Maybe we can get some questions going. It was a little weak last week. Now I do have a backup plan if it doesn't get. I saw a post in one of the groups, and this lady had a cutting board that she had gotten from a client that had it done somewhere else, and they misspelled something, and she was going to recreate it, but all she had was a picture of the logo, of the design, and tracing it is not, optimal. And she doesn't know how to redraw it. So I just opened up Lightburn, and I don't design anything, and I just started doing it. And I was going to record it, and after about an hour, I probably would have had to cut all the audio, so I decided to stop recording. But I got pretty far, and I actually rebuilt the thing.
Oh,
so
good deal.
it was kind of neat. It was painful, but I got there, especially the note editing part. I took the long way around a few times.
Yeah, but once you learn how to note edit, man, then you can do pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, Danny, good to see you in here. David, glad you're here.
I've got my audio, my internet's working today, and I've had it worked on, so I haven't been able to join in the last couple of weeks. But
Gotcha.
We got it fixed, and my machine is sitting in California, 2,410 miles away, and I'm excited about that.
All right. Well, if you start walking now, you might be able to meet them halfway.
That's a good thought.
So, all right. So, John, good to see you on here. And if there's anybody that hasn't been here before, feel free to just kick up and ask any questions you may have or anything. That's primarily what this is about, and we just kind of fill the empty space with nonsense. So,
well, it's my first time here, so we'll see how it goes. I've watched a couple of the recorded ones, though.
Okay. All right. So, where are you in your laser journey? Yeah, go ahead.
This is Greg Drennan. I'm calling from North Carolina.
Hey,
I
Greg,
sent
how
you
are
an email earlier today, actually, but this is my first time too.
Gotcha. Let me see if I've checked my mail. I check the support email a lot, but I don't check mine.
I think it was on the support email, but
okay.
Oh, I tell you what, it was on Messenger.
Oh yeah, I can't use that anymore. So many people send messages. I it's up to like 2,000 or something now, and I've quit checking it. It's rendered it ineffective. So emails, probably your phone is the best way to get me.
Sounds good.
So apologize for that. It just got unmanageable. So, all right. Well, if anybody has any questions, it's an open forum, so feel free to jump right in.
Greg, whereabouts in North Carolina are you from?
I'm down in Wilmington, so southeast corner on the coast.
I'm up toward Winston-Salem, Greensboro area.
Oh, okay. That's not terribly far away.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'd actually, the message I'd sent to Brian was asking if they had any way of finding out if there were other owners down in the southeast corner down here that I might be able to talk to get started on learning all this stuff while I'm saving up money to buy one.
Right.
There's a fellow named Michael Garrett down in Roanoke Rapids, which is north of you. But I went down and saw his machine, and he is really, really helpful, and you can actually see it work.
Hmm.
I'll
Also,
tell you that the guys that have the lasers, if anybody wants to go see how it works, I've done several of the demos. I love doing them. I mean, they're fun to be able to show somebody what these things can do.
hmm yeah, and we kind of have that demo program. It was kind of put on the shelf for the most part because of the whole Corona thing. And we kind of use it as a last resort. I know everybody wants to kick the tires on one, but if people are available, then we try to facilitate that. Another good place for information is on the global Facebook users group and a couple of the other Thunder specific groups. Since Thunder has a bunch of special stuff that's a little different than a lot of lasers, it's good to get in those groups, and it's not a dumpster fire like a lot of those Chinese generic groups are. So it's a real good resource.
And Robert's computer creations YouTube channel is top notch.
Yeah. Well, there's Robert right up there, so I'm sure he thanks you. It is.
I've
So
watched
we've
a
got
lot of his videos.
yeah, the community is really what makes this. You know what I mean? We try to provide the best support possible, but really this whole community and the whole culture of Thunder is really what makes it so special. And that's what I like about it. So a lot of good stuff from a lot of people.
And I have to say, I've watched several of the webinars on YouTube, and this is only the second one I've actually sat in on.
Hmm.
And I mean, I feel like I know everybody,
Right.
and
Right.
it's a
Well,
good community.
that's the way I feel. It's like a family for sure.
Right.
So we look out for each other, especially if somebody talks about a Thunder. I've seen them do that before. You don't want to do that on another group. It doesn't take long for the word to get out.
They don't like me in some of the Glowforge groups.
So,
I always say Glowforge has great advertising. You hardly see any advertising by Thunder. There's a reason for that. They're putting their money where the value is. Glowforge's value is in their advertising.
yeah, and they have their place, I guess, but it's not a far stretch to go from a Glowforge Pro to a Nova 24,
Right.
or especially a Mini 60, and they have their place too. Actually, they're not my super favorite, but that's what they're supposed to be. They're the stripped down version. You still get the quality of a Thunder. It just doesn't have quite all the bells and whistles, which is fine for a lot of people. It's an awesome selling machine, but it's not a far stretch. I think they're pretty close. The Glowforge Pro and the Mini 60 is pretty close in price, actually. But I haven't checked on that in a while. So, hey, Jason, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on?
You've been making a few rotaries today?
We make them every day. Just these chipsets and the motors are the hard part right now, as you guys already know.
Yeah, I've been trying to find some strong arm processors, and I thought I had them ordered, and there was a snafu, and I reordered them, and now the other 900 or so that I need to even get started is 406 days away because of the chip famine.
Yep. The one thing almost everybody uses in all their electronics is the one thing that nobody has right now.
Yeah.
They got manufacturing plants all over shutting down because they can't make cars or trucks or motorcycles or whatever,
Yeah.
because they're all missing these chips.
Well, the Nova series has 2 of them. There's one on the TL timer, and there's one on the maintenance board.
Yep. Yeah, no fun. But
What kind of chips y'all looking for?
it's the,
STM, those little strong arm processors.
hey, someone's got to turn their mic off or whatever they got in the background down.
Yeah, there was some feedback coming through there.
Who is that?
Who that is? It was that one.
I don't know if you
John.
hear me flush, that's me.
What's that? It went away.
I think that was John.
I said if you hear a flush, that's probably me.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
no wonder there's no video.
I'll try to keep it muted though.
Right.
Plop, plop, fizz, fizz.
So, well, I see a few people that may be new on here. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. If you have any questions or comments, we'll be glad to try to help you out. So,
Brian?
One question
Hey.
I had. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. You just posted where you had cut that polyethylene foam for your gun.
Mhm.
You did that on a 35 80 watt.
correct.
Am I going to be able to do that on 24 60 watt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
a little slower maybe.
And it was
Yep.
2 inches?
I think it was closer to 3 actually, but yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Jen,
Robert?
sorry.
Yeah.
Jen, I was just going to say, I cut a ton of foam with my 24. And the only thing that I've learned is if you go from the stock 2-inch lens to the 4-inch lens, you'll get a nice square cut. The 2-inch lens will give you kind of a scalloped cut. So if you're planning on cutting a lot of foam, that 4-inch lens does a beautiful job. I do a lot of GoPro foam inserts that I sell, and they're 2.5 inches thick, and it does a beautiful job on those.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Hmm.
I think somebody else had a question.
Yeah, that was me. Getting set up and ready for my 24 to arrive,
Mhm.
and to hook up a dedicated 20 amp circuit, I'm going to have to fish wires. There's no way I could hook that up to 220, is there? Because I have 220 available right there.
Well, I mean, you could use one leg.
Well, doesn't the inverter has a 220 switch, doesn't it?
No, these machines
Power
aren't 220.
supplies?
Nothing in them's 220.
I know, but the power supply is not convertible.
Well, no, because everything has to be convertible.
No.
There's 3 power supplies. There's a laser power supply and a 24-volt power supply and a 36-volt power supply. And then I think, 5 volts is derived off the TL timer. So, but yeah, it's not, you can't just flip these to 220.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well.
basically, I just take that breaker out, put 2 breakers in, and split it.
If you're running a standard 2-wire system, you won't be able to put.
But yeah, it depends if it's coming out of a main or whether it's coming out of a sub panel, because in the main panel, your earth ground and your neutral are bound in the box together, and in a sub panel they're not. You've got a separate ground rod, and it can get weird. So it depends on how it's wired. What are you saying? Like you have a dryer outlet or something there that was
It's an
already in
old
the
dryer
house?
circuit, yes.
They make an adapter that'll turn one of those 220s into 2 110s, and it's a pre-made adapter, and you can buy them at maybe even like Home Depot, but like an electrical supply store or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
You determine which outlet, the NEMA, what it is, what the classification of it is, and I think Jeremy probably.
Yeah, but you could easily just take that 50 amp 22 or it's a 50 amp, right? 110 or
I believe it's
240? The 30 amp is
I
it
believe
is it 110?
No, it's 220.
It's 220. So basically, you could just take two of the legs off, take your white and your black, make your white your common again. The ground is already going to be the ground. Use the black for your positive, and then you have your single circuit.
Or buy the right adapter for it that's UL listed and made for that, and do it that way, and not electrocute
But how
yourself
do
if you're
but
not
how
an
do they
electrician.
but how do they split that? How do they split that up though? There's
They
no
do it inside,
common.
but it's L1 and neutral.
Yeah, but where do they get the neutral from? If it's because the neutral
Ground,
and
if it's on a main panel, ground and neutral are the same.
but when you're running a 220, usually your neutral now becomes a power, and then your ground is ground, neutral is power, and black is power.
Now, typically on a 220 breaker, you've got two hots, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the white and the black.
You got an L1, a L2 going, yeah. And if you go from L1 to L2, you get 220. If you go L1 to neutral, you get 110. If you go L2 to neutral, you get 110.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, is if you make one of those, instead of it being a power, you put it back to being a neutral, which would be your white wire.
Well, yeah.
I don't
but
know how they can do that, because there's no neutral that goes out to a 220 outlet. It's always a power, and two powers and a ground, unless you have a three phase, and then you have your neutral wire as well. But like in my house, I have 3 wires going to mine. Some of them have 4, so it depends on how it's wired up.
Right.
I'll have to look into it. I know enough electricians. I think we can figure it out.
YouTube University.
YouTube certified electrician. There we go.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. And I would say that there's probably some people running those Nova 24s on a 15 amp, but you didn't hear me say that.
I run mine off 15 amp.
Yeah.
But I have the laser run on its own bridge or its own circuit.
Yeah.
And then the pump, or the chiller runs off of a separate circuit, and then my air compressor runs off another separate circuit. So they're all separated.
Yeah, that works.
Because I tried the machine and the chiller together, and it didn't kick the breaker. But what you notice is, or what I had problems with is you'd get laser, the beam would drop out when the chiller kicks on. It would put enough load on the machine that the laser wouldn't fire, and I was getting dead spots in my engravings. And then ever since I split it up into 2 circuits, I haven't had that issue.
Yeah, and if you have a newer machine that the power is derived for the chiller from the laser, you can also use a standard IEC computer power cord and isolate it by unplug, just using that other cord to the chiller and taking it to another 15 volt outlet. So that way you can split your load. So.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Bueller.
Go ahead. I've got a question. I missed when y'all were talking about the air kit. Was there air kit that you were making at one time or assembling one time, Brian?
Yeah, and I've got a box of parts here ready to do them. I just haven't had time to put them together yet. And yeah, we kind of do that out of convenience. I thought it would be a good idea, but it's turning me into a production assembly place instead of a support place. So I have to kind of watch it. But yeah, that is something that we offer as they're able to be produced in limited quantities. So
you had to know that was coming though.
Yeah, I kind of did. We're trying to work on a way to keep that going. I literally put out a parts list of everything you need to get it, but I get having the convenience of having it already put together and having all the stuff and not having to hunt it down, so it's.
Could I get that list or get you to fix one? Get on the list to have one?
Yeah, there's a join wait list, and what happens is, however many I can make, and I put them out there. It sends an email out to everybody, and whoever gets there first gets them. It's
There
kind
you
of a
go.
free for all. I can send. Let me put the link up there, and we're gonna try to keep a few more of these happening. Um, I'll tell you what. Let me just do this real quick, and I'll put the link in the chat. And let's see. That's the link in the chat to the parts site. And I think you're probably not looking at the screen I want you to look at. So bear with me just a minute.
Yeah,
I
we don't
think
want to
this
see
is the
the
right
security
one.
system.
Let's see. There we go. This is the part site. And some of this stuff is not going to be available. It's warranty parts only. And I won't have them visible. I think it's visible because I'm logged in as an admin. But there's the compressor kit, and you could go to read more, and then there's a whenever something's out of stock, there's a wait list, and you can check there and join the wait list. And if I put anything out, then you'll be notified as soon as the stock level goes above, 0.
Right.
So that's kind of how that works.
If I want to put mine together, do I need 2 dryers? Is that 2 dryers on there? I see.
Whatever you can get. The ones I got this time are single. So it doesn't really matter. I'll
Okay,
show you what. Whoops, if I could type. Let's see. The kit, I'll show you what's in the kit. It's this. Whoops, what happened to it? There we go. It's one of those quick releases, the standard one for the air compressor. And you need 3 of these 1/4-inch MPT to 1/4-inch push connect fittings. One for each end of your regulator, and a little bit of blue wire tubing, 1/4-inch or 6mm airline, and then a regulator, which the most important part on that thing, which the regulator is too, so you can maintain it, close to the unit at 40 or whatever the recommendation is. But to have the dryers in there, that's really the biggest deal. So, I mean, that's literally all there is to it, is,
Okay.
about 5 pieces.
But have you
So,
updated that to something that'll hold more pressure, or is that still the 30 or 40 psi
yeah, no,
system?
the thing about the pressure is in the I'll show you. Whoops, let me get back over here. It's
Your
in
pressure's in your valve in the laser
yeah,
itself.
right. It's in
Like
the 2
that,
relays.
like mine
Right.
sits there and whistles.
Yeah,
Like when and when you wiggle it, it kind of goes away.
right. And somebody had a question the other day. I don't know if it was in the service desk or whether it was on a forum or something, about how to use his low, his standard air compressor for the low stage and put his high air on the high one. So when you're engraving, you're using the stock air pump, and when you're cutting, you're using the external air, and that's easy. You
Yeah,
take
you
that
could do
Y
that.
out right there, and take
Yep.
this blue wire and have it go to your low, leave it hook up stock, and then just take your air compressor and hook it into the input of the high relay, and you're done.
Yep.
So, and I've thought about that. As a matter of fact, I'm working on something like that Ultimate Air Assist kit, but it's a retro for the
Well,
Mini 60 to add dual air to it.
all you'd need is to get a 1/4-inch drill bit and a through wall
Grommet, yeah.
fitting for the airline, so you'd have 2 air sockets in the back, one
Yeah.
for high, one for low.
Yeah, you could do that. You could panel mount that external, and then just
and
run
then-
both of those straight back to them. Yeah.
Yep. And then if you wanted to run a single system, you could have a Y setup adapter that you just plug into the back, and then plug your hose into that.
Yeah, or have
That
the
way
Y
you
on
wouldn't-
the outside and just connect it when you need it.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of having
Yeah.
2 input lines, you'd have the Y, and then your single out or in from the compressor.
Yeah.
And then if you want it high and low, then you could take that off and put your high and low lines in. But that's actually a pretty good idea, because it's kind of a pain in the butt to start up a compressor and everything just for some light engraving.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is what if you're doing a 4-hour engraving, and at the very end you want to cut it out? You don't want your big air compressor to run for 4 hours while it's engraving, and it can just be sitting there idle waiting, to the very end. So it is a pretty good idea.
Yep. It is a good idea.
And, of course, run your still run your regulator at 40 and put a water trap in it. You know,
Yep.
same rules apply. But absolutely, you could even mount it right there on the inside. You could mount your regulator in your trap, because the traps I got this time have a auto drain, and they've got a
Yep.
connector on the bottom to put a hose on. So you could literally mount it like right here, you know, and have drill another hole and put a grommet and put your drain out the bottom and put a Tupperware bowl down there or something, or put it in a jug, you know.
Yeah,
And just
I was using I had before I used like a Gatorade bottle.
yeah.
You drill a hole, 2 holes in the top. One you shove the drain line for your discharge,
Hmm.
and then the other one you just stick a dummy tube down there to relieve the pressure.
Yeah.
But it's not big enough to allow the water to splash back out when it spits it into the jug.
Right. But yeah.
So
So
that way you can have
that's
like an onboard setup like that with it to catch
mhm.
the water.
Yeah, that's pretty neat though. Good idea. So all this modding,
Huh.
take a perfectly good laser and start hacking it apart and putting regulators on the front. Yeah.
That's like anything else. You can't leave. Nobody can leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
Well, you come out with the nice new advancements after I already bought mine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is yours single air?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the? I have a question. Do you have the 5-pin connector with the switch on it for the rotary, or does it have a 7? Does it not have a switch? When you use your rotary, do you have to turn a switch on and off there next to the connector?
Yeah, 5-pin. Had to get up and look at it.
Okay. And do you
I
use
actually haven't used my rotary yet.
do you use Lightburn?
Yes.
Okay.
I bought the rotary when I bought my laser, but I've yet to take it out of the box. I've been playing with other stuff.
Is
Gotcha.
that my rotary? Is that my rotary, or is that the old boss or old Thunder?
The old one. I've had mine about 2 years.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's an older one.
you need to leave that one in the box and get the right one.
Will you give me a trade-in?
Well, that's
give me a trade-in, brother.
the reason I ask is I think depending on which machine you have, I may need to ask you a few questions. There's a known thing with some of these older machines with the 5-pin connector and the rotary. They use the Y channel, and it's been stated in the Chinese documentation and on Lightburn forums that Lightburn won't work with the rotary on those particular versions because of some weirdness that you have to use RDWorks. However, we have people running them. But I have a case of a guy that's been running one for 2 years, and the other day it messed up, and now it's completely out of whack. And it has to do with that. But I was going to pick your brain about a few things. If you ever one day wanted to decide to plug that thing in and play with it, I could give you a free tutorial while we test a few things.
Yeah. Hey,
So,
whenever. Let's see. I've got it right back here. It's right behind my computer.
gotcha.
Because I've got my Note 63 right here. My computer's sitting on a playing card table, and then my chiller is sitting on top of a table right behind it, and the rotary's underneath it.
Gotcha. So I may get with you depending on the outcome of this one that I'm looking at, because you may have some information in your system and programming, and if you have that same equipment. But anyway, I won't waste any more time about that right now. I'll get with you if I see a need. But I appreciate it. It's good info.
Let me look and see which one it is.
Okay. Hey, Mark, good to see you.
Hey, Brian, sorry I'm late. I just couldn't figure out how to get there again.
Oh,
A little challenging sometimes.
I need to figure out a way to put that out there. I don't know what I could do.
Yeah.
I just made it a bookmark linked now, so I'll be able to
I
find
gotcha.
it.
Yeah, the URL doesn't ever change. It stays the same. So you could use the same.
You went dead there, Brian.
No audio, Brian.
Brian, your audio.
He's got that fancy headset and he still kills it.
My battery
Hey,
died.
look, you got to go wireless, man.
I am, but my
Oh,
battery died. I had to plug myself up to the charger.
no.
I forgot to charge them last night. So that's the drawback of wireless. But I can't handle the wired ones. It twists around my arm and gets all tangled up, and I can't
Yep.
move around. So
Every time I take mine off, I throw it straight on back on the cord.
yeah, I should. Anyway, well, good to see you, Mark. Sorry, I had a technical difficulty. That tends to be my default theme. So,
You always
Brian,
have
is that
one.
the one you were thinking of?
what's that?
Is that the one you were thinking of?
Let me see if there's a way I can look at your screen. Okay.
Oh, good Lord. What is that?
Like I said, I hadn't opened it yet.
Yeah, that's the Chuck. I've got one of those. I've got the 7-pin version. But yeah, okay, that's the Chuck rotary. That'll be easy to work with because I've got documentation on that.
Okay. Yeah, this is the 5-pin
Okay.
according to the plug on the laser itself. So
Okay. All right. Yeah, I may take you up on your offer to let me pick your brain a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's perfect because that's exactly the one that he's using, I think. That works. So, all right. I see a few more people pop in. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to just jump right in. It's kind of a round table. We just kind of take them as they come. So, and Mark, I'll send you a message in a little bit. Do you have a camera on your machine?
I do not.
Okay. Ooh,
now, Brian, I was one of the guys that lost my tube in the freeze here in Texas.
Okay, I remember. Yeah, that's unreal. I mean,
it was crazy.
We had a bunch of people affected by that, a whole bunch, especially in that area.
Well, I put a Reese tube in it.
Mm-hmm.
After talking to you and the guys at Light Object and a couple others, I went ahead and went with the Reese tube over the STL. Mm-hmm. Real simple installation. That went pretty well.
Did it have the pigtails on it, or did you have to terminate that where that quick connection, that high voltage connector is?
I had to.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Reese's have screw terminals on them.
I used the wiring off of the old one that cracked and just cut the ends off where it was soldered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the Thunder ones are super easy. They come plug and play.
Right.
But the Reese one, I just cut those off, put an end on it, and screwed it in.
Yeah, they have the screw terminals, and I really like that. But
it was pretty easy to install. The only thing I was looking for is if there was some way on the computer to reset the hours for the tube. I didn't find it, so I just Sharpied it on the label.
Yeah,
you can go into machine settings.
Yeah, in Lightburn, you can go into the machine settings and do it.
Actually, you got to go into the. You gotta get into the password protected part.
Yeah, well, it's not password protected in Lightburn. The vendor settings is machine settings in Lightburn.
Oh, so, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's not password protected, which
all right.
I always thought was kind of odd because if you don't know what you're doing, you can go in there and screw something up.
It used to be, unless Jason changed it.
Yeah, I don't remember that it was. Of course, the first when I started using Lightburn, it was G-code version, in beta forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
I didn't have a DSP until I got this first Thunder. So.
Yeah, because I know the typical password was like RD8888 or something like that. Was a password.
RD works it still is for the vendor settings in there. But yeah, the machine settings are wide open in Lightburn.
Yeah.
Which I haven't had too many cases. Oh.
Oops.
So, but right. Does anybody else have any questions? Awesome. I see you on there. How are you?
I'm good, bud. I was doing a demonstration, just got done, so I figured I'll call you guys in.
Awesome. Awesome. So,
Doo-doo-doo.
right. Well,
Hey, Brian, I had a
so
quick question for you.
yeah, man.
Are you, what are you typically seeing for the minimum threshold on the 51 100s and 130s? Are they down around 10%, something like that?
I have some documentation on it, I believe. Power output variances by firmware level. Here we go. Let me link this and see if this helps. Where did the chat window go? There it is.
Robert, what do you mean by threshold, bud?
Pretty much where your tube, starts to turn on, what the percentage is on those bigger size tubes.
On my tube, I've got a 130 on my 63. The tube I just put in, firing at 9.1.
Mm-hmm. So this is some data from China, depending on their observations on the power versus the current versus the power setting, depending on the firmware level.
Gotcha.
So you can go through there and probably find some information. And then also on that power test, I don't mean to scream. My caps lock always comes on. The pulse test, there's some actual data in here. And I've got a spreadsheet of a lot of different information from different machines, both 100 and 130, what their actual firing rates are. So, I'm starting to gather a little bit of data for the 24, but there's a test in here you can run, and it's a series of lead in and lead outs. It's not exactly that. It has to do with well, maybe it is with the dwell times. So it doesn't actually look like it does anything, but it pulses the machine, at 5, 10, 15, 20, or whatever it's set up to do. It's a pre-made test, but there's quite a bit of data that we've collected. I have published some of it, but there's a difference it shows between pulse and using the pulse button and going through Lightburn as well.
Yeah.
Now this will show you where the firmware difference is on some of the machines. After you hit 70%, if you put in 80 or 90 or 100, it's still going to cap at 70%.
Yeah.
On some of the newer firmware, it actually does a power scale, so it'll look like this orange one here. See, so it'll actually scale up to the 70%. You see what I mean? It's more linear.
Yeah.
Instead of just chopping off the top. So, depending on what firmware and what machine, there's some differences there, but we got quite a bit of stuff on there.
Great, that's what I needed, Brian, and that's in the knowledge base on the online.
Yeah, the fuzzy search does real well. You can enter plain, like firmware. The search is real good, but then the related articles will show up, and there's other information that may be relevant over there on the sides too.
Perfect.
And
thank you.
I'll link this one in the chat as well in case anybody else wants it. And turn off that screen.
Brian, can we update firmware, or is it not really possible?
That's updating firmware on these is not like you think of, like with a computer or a copier or any other kind of thing. There haven't been any real changes to the firmware since the beginning, other than the going from the Y channel or the Y axis to the U channel for the rotary. And most every other part of that code is pretty much the same, with the exception of those things, with some minor changes to whether it caps or does a power scale, like we were just talking about. But largely you don't have to do firmware upgrades. Now there are times when you'll get a ghost in there or something weird's happening, and we'll recommend to do the default reset parameters, and that gets it back to Thunder, how it came out of the box. It's not a factory default reset, because if you do that, it wipes everything out and puts it in Ruida defaults. Then you're setting your machine up again. So always, if you're going to do it, it's in the menu as default parameter reset. And if you ever see anything buggy, you can try that. And we've got a document on the knowledge base on how to do it.
Brian, I'm curious for the people that had problems or lost their tubes in that cold snap, how easy it was for them to replace the tube and get everything aligned. Any feedback on that yet?
Yeah, David, I'm sure has some, and we haven't had anyone that had to replace the tube call and say something's wrong, short of saying check your alignment. But I'm not sure that you even have to. Most people don't report that they have to.
When I replaced mine, because I lost mine in that freeze, when I replaced it, I went to Chris Lacasio's House of Lasers YouTube. He's got an incredible step-by-step alignment procedure, and that is dead on. Chris did an awesome job with that one.
Okay, yeah, that's on our article also for the aligning the beam in the support site. We've added that one in there as well. So okay, did you do it out of good measure, or is it because you had to? And there's
I figured if I pulled it out, I changed brands of tubes, that something was going to be just a little out of whack. I wanted to make sure it was all right. So I started and just followed step by step. When he did something, I did it. And it was really easy. And it's actually better now than it was before I lost the tube.
Was it very far off? Did you notice when you replaced it?
It was. I had to make changes at each point, but it wasn't so far off that I was hitting the nozzle or anything, you know, as the beam was coming out. It's just, I don't think it was as finely tuned as it could have been.
Gotcha.
Or as it is now. So it's really, I recommend anybody go look up that video and follow it. It's some fine tuning there.
Yeah. It's a good idea to do it, you know, like you say, you could probably slap it in there, not have to. The real thing there, if you don't move anything, is just that the diameter is the same, you know, and that the center line of that tube is the same, you know, as the one that was in it. So, and I think those are what, 80 millimeter tubes or something like that. I think it's the diameter of them.
Something like that. When I changed it and I went from the STL to the REC, I wasn't real sure the center line was going to be exact. So I went ahead and did it for that.
Gotcha. Well, sounds like it wasn't too bad. So,
that brings up another question then for us Nova 24 owners. Is it possible to replace the 60 watt tube with a more powerful tube?
You can. The power of a tube is largely determined by the length. So, you know, you'll have to get a longer extension, of course, most likely, if you go to an 80. I've got dimensions. Let's see.
Oh, just duct tape it, dude. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I got that.
I'll show you what we've got on it. So, yeah, the Nova 24's got an SPTC 70. I'm going to open that in a new tab. I can't tell which tab it was. That one. And I think I have the specs, actually. Let me go back. I thought I had it. Yeah, I do. Wait, yeah, here's the specs right here. So the Nova 24 tube is 1,250 millimeters long. An 80 watt tube, looky here. The only difference is the diameter. You'd have to change your mounts. You could put a C90 in there, and it's the same length.
So wait, we have to upgrade the power supply though, right?
Yeah, you'd want to put a 100 watt power supply on it probably. That's what I've got in my 80 watt. The Nova 3580 ship with a 100 watt power supply for those C90 tubes to be able to achieve the 88 watts that we say they'll do safely. But yeah,
I know
absolutely.
what Mark is gonna do.
No, I don't think so yet.
So yeah, you'd have to probably get different mounts or cut those down. Since the diameter, there's a pretty significant difference in diameter, 55 versus 80. So if you could make the diameter work, the length is fine. And then of course at least an 80-watt power supply. But if I would do the 100. There's probably only $10 difference in the power supplies. But yeah, then you could have an 88-watt machine, an 88-watt Nova 24. Of course, yours is 77. Technically, it should output about 77 watts at the third mirror.
So is it more of an academic question than practical at this point?
Gotcha. But yeah, absolutely. We have one guy that, if you want to talk about Frankenstein and something, he took a Mini 60 and cut the bottom out of it and put a rotary in it and added a red dot. He basically made it a Nova 24. So, and then I also heard today something that was interesting. I saw on the post, somebody has the first generation Mini 60, and it had the motorized Z table and the red dot. It didn't have dual air assist, and it had the rotary port. It was much more like the 24. And they said they bought it used. I told them they got a Jewel. That's a solid machine. So that was from the earlier days. I think that was when the Mars series was around, right? When they went Nova, I think they started the 24. It was a spin-off of the Mini 60. So, all right. Well, does anybody else have anything? My backup was talking about marking compounds, but I didn't have a chance to get my knowledge base article complete enough to be able to use it as a visual aid. So I'm not going to use it.
I bought a can of the Brilliance
Mm-hmm.
marking and tested it once, but haven't really used it for anything for real.
Yeah.
It looked good.
Yeah, that's me. I've got a little bit of I've got some Brilliance and some Enduramark. I haven't tried the Ceremark yet, which I guess is the industry standard, that and Thermark, which I think is the same company. But I was looking at those Heaves inks. Those are kind of neat. Some of them, they're for different lasers and different substrates. Some of them are for steel, some of them are for plastics, but they're engraving inks, so it leaves a pigment behind.
I hadn't seen that.
After you laze with them. Yeah, they're not cheap. And
That's
I'm
the
sure
company out of Australia. I know the guy. I think that's the
yeah,
one you're talking about,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It is
Pulse
that site.
Pulse
Yeah,
laser
that's it.
systems.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the
Well,
guy
none of the market
that
stuff
has
is
that.
cheap.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons I was going to make that article. There was a discussion about that, about how expensive a rattle can of that, Brilliance or Enduramark was. And the rattle can is the least efficient way to do it by far. That's the most wasteful.
Yeah.
But
Airbrush or
yeah, get the powder and cut it with denatured alcohol, and it can dry completely up, and you can scrape it up and put it back in there and wet it down again and reapply, as long as it doesn't get contaminated. Because the actual components don't vaporize, just the vehicle does, so you can keep reusing it. And the airbrush, even a cheap airbrush, will let you apply it, with some precision instead of just. So, and if you do it that way, you're only looking at pennies an application. It's like what I gave it the analogy of, you go have a printer. I've got a printer. It's a laser printer, 50 page a minute. And the toner cartridge is like $100 for it. But you think, oh my gosh, that's $100 for one black print cartridge, but it'll do 10,000 pages before I need another one, So it's kind of like that. But, and I'm messy with mine. I get the rattle cans. I don't have time for an airbrush. I try to tell you all this good advice, and then I don't follow it sometimes, but I guess that's the nature of the beast. So, but I'm not in a setting where I'm selling things and I need to worry about how much my materials cost, most of the time. Most of the time I'm doing samples and tests and things like that. And if I need a piece of 1-inch MDF that's, 6 inches by 6 inches, I'll find it somewhere and order it, even if it's $7, because I got to get the thing done.
You're so wasteful.
Well, it's all in the progress of, it's all in innovation,
That's what they say.
experimentation. So
So you actually saying, Brian, that if you buy the Nova 24 with a 60-watt tube, you have an 80-watt power supply?
the Nova 24 60 watt has a 70-watt tube and a 60-watt power supply from as it shipped. The Nova 35 80-watt has a 100-watt. And I believe that 60-watt is an HT. All of the other models in the rest of the Nova series are MYJG or whatever those are.
Okay.
But they should output 77 watts without going past the maximum rated current of the tube. So they're pretty tough. I still show that little video that Oz did, or Jason, of cutting with 1/2 inch. You know, it was a discussion about using external air on the global group, and I still, whenever somebody says, "Hey, well, Nova 24 cut 1/2 inch," I always link that article just because I like watching it. It's mesmerizing. So.
Airplane.
What's the thickest thing you've cut, Mark?
I think 1/2 inch is what I've cut, Baltic birch, and because I've never used the stock air compressor that came with the machine, just because of everything that I read. I've never had a problem with cutting anything really.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I kind of get a kick out of it when people ask how thick can I cut with whatever, and so much is dependent on what else you got hooked up on the machine. It's like, how fast can your car go? Well, is it a Volkswagen or a Lamborghini?
Right. Yeah. And you know, I could probably cut through something that's 4, 5, 6, 7 inches thick if I wanted to. You know, how long it would take and how ugly and nasty and disastrous and flamey it would be another question. But you give it enough passes. That's like I see those things about the diode lasers trying to cut Baltic 3/16 or something, Baltic birch with the diode lasers, and you can do it, but it takes you a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you ain't getting through that quick with a diode.
So, but man, the stuff they do on that engraving though, it is so nice. I
can't
one.
find it right now, but I did cut through a 2x4 with my 130 watt in a single pass, but it wasn't pretty.
Right. And probably not real fast either.
It was not fast. I thought I saved it, but I just cleaned up some of the wood stuff and rearranged it. I still got the rest of it cleaned up.
Looks like you got enough room for another 63 back there. You can get you one dual air.
So, well, if anybody doesn't know what size the 63 is, it's the size of about a Honda sitting in the garage.
Yeah.
In fact, here's a quick easy for you, for the ones watching. That little panel, when you raise the lid, that front panel that you can take off, here it is on the 63.
Yeah.
David, you're a small man, man. That don't count.
I'm a proud 4'3". No.
Let me put my glasses back on.
That's weird. What am I showing you guys?
So does the 35 and up come with a dual air assist for high-low, or does the Nova 24 come with it also?
The Nova 24 does also. All of the current machines do have dual air assist, with the exception of the Mini 60.
Okay.
All the Nova series machines will have dual air.
Cool.
Is the pull-out drawer on the 24 still scheduled later this year or next year now?
I have heard absolutely nothing about that. I haven't. I guess no news is good news. They typically update me, so I suppose there's been no change on it. I can ask about that if you like. Let me make myself a note.
Yeah, somebody saw my document and said, "Is it out yet?" Like, I don't know. I'm not with Thunder, but I'll find out.
All right, I'll find out about the crumb trace status on all the machines and see where we're at. I know they're trying to work that in there along with some other things. So I'll let you know. It may take me a day or so to find out, but I'll get back with you on it.
Thanks.
Yep.
I just want to jump in here and give Awesome some grief. My Nova
Okay.
24 is so new, they haven't even built it yet.
You suck, dude. You really. That's not fair.
That's all right. Awesome. You do good work on your machine, right? It's not about the instrument, it's how you play it.
That's right, baby.
So
That's what they say, anyways.
right. Well, does anybody else have anything?
While we're talking about tubes, one more question.
Yeah.
If you buy a tube, how long, if you don't use it, how long can it sit dormant? Is there a magical number for that?
Probably not. I mean, yeah, they do degrade. Yeah, there is some degassing. How long? The manufacturer's specifications, believe it or not, will probably be the closest thing you'll find if they're reputable, because a lot of them are not. But I've had some tubes, not on Thunder, but on some other machines that are 5, 6, 7 years old, and I've run them. At that time I didn't have a power meter, so I couldn't tell, exactly if they were, how fresh they were, but they weren't dead. They weren't DOA.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
there's
sad
not
part is tells you about my memory. When I bought my machine 5 years ago, I bought an extra tube. I put it away and I totally forgot about it. Was cleaning the closet and like, what the hell is this box for? It's a tube.
Well, you probably get some life out of it.
Okay.
How long has it been?
5 years. My other tube's still crunching away fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Switch them out. Run one a little while and run one a little while. It's kind of like, taking your car out and letting the battery stay charged. No, I'm just kidding.
Gee whizzers.
That
sounds like a lot of unnecessary work.
I was gonna say, yeah, I like my tube in there already. That's all right.
So I definitely don't throw it away.
No, I'm
turn it
just
into a
keep
piece
it.
of
I
artwork.
was just like, holy smokes, how did I forget I had another tube sitting here?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some truth to that, because even if you have something sealed in glass, you got to have some anodes, some electrodes going through there. You're going to have some posts sticking out of some sort. I mean, you could get a leak. I think that's really what it is just the tube construction, the glass tube construction. So.
Well, actually, I think if it's not in direct sunlight, you're not going to get that much leakage from it because it's not being exposed as UV ray.
Yeah. Well, and then see, the other thing is if you do run them, there is some regeneration of the gases. It does. It's not perpetual, but it's there, and that can extend it too. So they actually are good. It is good to actually run them. But as far as any finite stuff on shelf life, I haven't heard anything that satisfies my curiosity enough to call it, the gospel.
Okay.
So.
And by the way, I did get my AC6 in today, so I'll put that in later tonight. See how it goes.
Nice.
So the original fan finally kind of started giving way, was I could smell the stuff inside versus going out.
Yeah. I think let me pull up that article real quick on the fans.
So I'll give your the Thunder fan credit. It did its job. 5 years now, finally having to change it out.
Yeah, I made this article the other day just because people were asking about it. I've put a little table together of what the stock fans are and what the aftermarket fans are, and got links to them and some of the specifications and stuff, and the adapter that you need to be able to use it, so that if you want the machine to control it. So yeah, you had the W150, which is 323 CFM, and that 6-inch cloud line is 402. So you should notice an increase. You won't notice the deficit of it being a DC fan, an axial fan, because you never had a centrifugal fan to begin with. So you hear people talk about how it doesn't evacuate the smoke at the very beginning of the job. It takes a while to spool up. You've been dealing with that and not knowing it for the entire time. So you'll notice a substantial increase, I think, in performance on this fan.
Cool. Yeah, I saw the CFM weren't that bad that I was gonna get sucked against the
Yeah. Yeah, it
machine.
won't pull you. It won't pull you through the grate, man. If it does though, you need to be sure you capture that on your Thundercam.
Uh-huh.
Look awesome through the meat grinder would definitely go viral.
I've got the 8-inch Infinity,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of times I'll do the engraving and some cutting and stuff with my lid open, and very seldom do I get anything out in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the lid open, it's pulling on the 63.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I do miss, was it Chris? Who was making fun of me again on the dual assist? I shut down the air so I could engrave and I forgot to stop it and turn it back on. I'm looking at my screen and suddenly I see these flames coming. Like, what the hell? Oh, damn it! Pause, quick. Squirt some water. Turn the air back on. Okay, start again. Everything fine.
I've started working on a thing that's similar to what we were talking about earlier about running the external air directly to one of the solenoids. I've got a guy with a Mini 60 that wants dual air, and it's pretty much the same situation as yours. Awesome. I'm thinking if you wanted dual air, there might be a way to do it. You'd have to put some parts in there without using that factory kit. It's another way, a less integrated way. But I haven't got the proof of concept yet. But it's something I'm working on, and it should be relatively inexpensive because most of the hardware's already there.
Yeah, let me know and I can test it on the regular Nova. Well, doesn't matter because all the new ones have it.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's something that when you get that, I'll look at it too because I've still got my old air pump.
yeah. See, they've got a kit, a retro kit for the dual air. It's $400, and the documentation is decent, but I don't know that I would want to put one in. I could, but I wouldn't want to. But I think there's a way without having to go through quite so much. You don't get some of the bells and whistles like the test buttons and the 10-second on tests and that kind of thing. Unless that's already built into that TL timer, which I don't think it is on that channel. But yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna try to make something work that's a little more simple using 2 compressors. So
2 compressors, great. Thanks for the double the noise.
or 1 and just you can put a valve in there. You can put a valve on the low stage side so that you can adjust it and just leave the high one wide open and use your stock pump if that's what you're used to using. Then you can just use 1 pump. Is that what you're after?
I don't know what I'm after yet. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, high and low. Are you using the stock air pump, right? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you could still do a high and a low, but I just got to figure out the details. So I'll keep you posted on it.
That's cool. No, I did a splice on the main line to put an additional one, but it's kind of hard to attach to the aluminum without cutting into it. So I was using hot glue to attach a converted, I guess like a spigot pointing it from the side to blow the air away.
Gotcha.
I think it worked pretty well actually.
Yeah, instead of coming through the nozzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, because I got something where, let me see if I can find it. I think I still have it in here. I was looking at something similar, something kind of like that. That's a piece of brake line on a quick release. So yeah, same concept, but and that has proven to be a lot better on engravings, especially if you have it blowing in the same direction that you're moving, so that it continues to force all that toward the back.
Yeah, especially going bottom top. That's where it works really nice. Keeps it clean from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the only other issue I've noticed is the new HR head. The line is much smaller than the original Nova's line for the air. So I may have to figure out something to get that in there.
You've got the one with that adjustment on the side.
Yeah.
I'll send you a replacement elbow. We've got some less restrictive quick release fittings for those, and I'll send you one. Hang on,
Okay,
let me add that to my note.
You can also buy those from AP. They charge $5 a piece for them.
Oh
For
yeah,
what?
it's
AP?
from American Photonics. It's the same fittings.
Oh, okay.
No, so you can get them off of Amazon for dirt cheap if you're talking about the air fittings.
Yeah,
They're
but
just a
I'll
five.
send Awesome one. That's okay.
They're just a
No, I
5
got it, and then
millimeter
I'm like,
thread.
why is this not? Oh yeah, okay. I've got the old stuff. That's why.
So
I think
I have a secondary air collar I have for another laser. I was actually looking to try to make for the Thunder that works really well on the other applications.
mhm.
Um, but I don't know if the speed of the head would interfere too much with it. Because basically it's an air collar that goes around it. I don't know if you've seen it or not on my website, but it's got several holes around the inner perimeter of the collar that
Yeah,
basically blows the air down and kind of scoops it and pushes it out the back.
yeah, kind of like a laminar flow
Yeah,
kind of
and
deal.
it basically creates an air pocket between the
Hmm.
material and the head. So when the material gets hit, it kind of lifts it up off the surface, super cools it, and then blows it away so it doesn't have a chance to stick and settle back down on your material.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Brian, with that device that you showed, are you concerned at all that air would blow debris back up onto the lens?
Not if I. Not really. I think it kind of works like one of those things when you walk in a convenience store and that automatic fan kicks on above you and it creates a wind curtain that you kind of walk through. That's kind of what I'm envisioning it doing across the orifice of the nozzle.
Well,
Um,
the problem with that is you still need air inside that nozzle though for cooling.
not Epilogue has a wide open lens. They don't even have a nozzle. They just have the air assist pointing straight down. That's actually a very good way to do it. There's
But
a
if
lot of waste and a lot of chance for the Venturi effect, forcing air into a nozzle and restricting it and letting it expand like that in that conical nozzle.
well, that's what I'm saying though. But when you're covering it with a cone, it needs to have some way to get cooled. You know, if it's not exposed or something like other lasers, then that's
What has to get
obviously
cooled?
well the lens. You
The
don't want all
lens
that
doesn't get
heat.
hot if it's clean.
Oh,
It
it'll get hot. That whole outer casing will get hot if you run it for long enough. I'm not talking about burn your hand hot, but it will get warm. Let's say.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, in the nozzle it does keep it cool. But I mean, so many lasers don't have a conical nozzle like that. At least not where the air assist comes out. You know.
No, that's what I'm
So
saying. I understand that if it's open, it's different because that's you know
getting some airflow.
it's getting some sort of airflow over it.
Yeah.
It's not just a stagnant air being trapped inside of an aluminum housing.
Yeah, I thought I saw a picture of one of the Odins with an open head like that, open head design. But
Yeah,
then
well,
I don't think they ended up that way. But my ULS was like that, and that Gravigraph is like that,
yeah,
and I like it. I like it a lot.
Now you got
that's
me
good.
thinking.
Like
Back up.
Eon has that for theirs too. For their smaller ones, it's an open lens system,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have a cooling. But
Yeah, but yeah, that's something to look at. So, well, it looks like I went a little
I got a
over,
quick
but
question
yeah, go ahead,
for
man.
David. You've got the 8-inch inline exhaust. Is that correct, David?
Me, David?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, I
what what speed do you have it on? Because it'll go to 800 cubic feet, and the stock one is only like 390 or 400. Do you run it wide open?
I run it wide open because a lot of what I do is with the lid open on the laser itself. So I go ahead and run the fan wide open.
Okay, I appreciate it. I know it has 8 speeds, and I didn't know what to put it at.
Yeah.
Makes
And
a
I do have mine going, it's 6 inch, from the machine to the fan, but it's 8 inch coming out of the fan all the way out of the garage.
Hmm. right. Well, cool, guys. I guess I'll call this one good. I'm going to kill the recording.